Today, we're going to dive into a single, really remarkable document, a formal complaint filed by one university professor against what he sees as the entire American financial system. It's a story of one man versus the giants of finance, and let me tell you, it starts with a powerful declaration.
Right from the opening line, the tone is set. It is serious. The author, Dr. Mohamed Fayad, isn't just filing a complaint here. He's basically declaring war, framing his own personal struggle as a symptom of what he calls systemic abuse.
So what we're unpacking here is a first-hand account, a primary source document. It's a formal letter, and get this, it's dated for the near future, which is pretty unusual, and it lays out a really stunning list of accusations. To make sense of this pretty dense document, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the professor and the complaint itself. Then, we'll dive into the core allegations and the frankly staggering list of who he's accusing. After that, we'll examine what he's hoping to achieve. And finally, we'll unpack the bigger message he seems to be sending. All right, first step, who wrote this letter and what exactly is it? Let's get these foundational details straight. The author uses a specific legal term to describe himself: acting pro se. Now, this is a key detail. It means he's being his own lawyer, representing himself in this matter without an attorney speaking for him. The author is Dr. Mohamed Fayad, a university professor and innovator, and he makes a point to identify himself as a U.S. citizen, which kind of frames his complaint within the context of his civil rights. And this isn't just some angry letter sent off into the void. Not at all. It's a formal complaint sent to the highest levels of government and law enforcement in California. We're talking the attorney general, the governor. This really shows you the serious and official intent behind the whole thing. Okay, let's get to the core of the complaint. What are the specific wrongdoings that Dr. Fayad is actually alleging here? So, the whole premise of his argument is this really stark contrast. He claims his financial history is perfect, but he says he's been the victim of what he calls systematic harassment by the very institutions that are supposed to be reporting that history accurately. And he's not just speaking in hypotheticals. He gives a specific number. He alleges that the three big credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, repeatedly and unjustifiably dropped his credit score by a huge margin, somewhere between 70 and 90 points. And he's very clear that this damage wasn't his fault. No late payments, no financial mistakes. He states it flat out, saying the score reduction happened, quote, without any legal basis, judgment, debt, or financial delinquency. But it doesn't stop with the credit bureaus. Oh no. The complaint then levels a whole series of pretty severe allegations against major banks. He accuses them of conspiring to do things like withhold his income, seize his funds, make unauthorized payments, and just systematically deny him any credit. He even alleges they closed his credit cards for no reason and billed him for services he never even signed up for. It's quite an exhaustive list. Now, if you're thinking the targets are just banks and credit bureaus, this document gets much, much broader. Let's take a look at the truly staggering scope of who's being accused. The main focus, as we've seen, is aimed squarely at the pillars of American consumer finance. You know, the household names that manage our money and our credit. So you've got the big three credit bureaus on one side. And on the other, it's a who's who of American banking. Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, Amex. The list just goes on and on. These are the central players. But this is where the document takes a really remarkable turn. The net he casts with his accusations is incredibly wide, way beyond just the financial sector. I mean, the sheer breadth of this is stunning. It goes on to name major tech companies like Google and Amazon, government agencies like the IRS, telecom giants like AT&T, and even healthcare providers. The list also includes law firms, publishing services, and specific individuals, including his ex-wife. It's less of a single complaint and more like a grand, unified theory of a conspiracy. So, with all these accusations against so many different groups, what's the end goal? What does Dr. Fayad actually want to see happen? This is where the author makes a really crucial pivot in his argument. While it's a deeply personal story about all the damages he claims to have suffered, he explicitly states this is not just about him. He positions himself as a voice for what he calls thousands of other citizens who suffer in silence, trying to turn his personal grievance into a call for systemic change. His demands really break down into three clear calls to action. First, he wants the public to wake up to the alleged danger. Second, he wants the government to step in and do something decisive. And third, he wants aggressive legal action, prosecutions, getting funds back, and compensation for people he claims have been harmed. So let's wrap this up by looking at the ultimate message of this pretty extraordinary document. What's the final takeaway here? The complaint ends on this powerful philosophical note by saying justice is not a luxury, it is a fundamental right. Dr. Fayad is trying to elevate his specific financial claims into a much bigger, universal argument about human rights and dignity in a modern economy. And so that leaves us with this question. Is this document just the isolated complaint of one person who feels wronged by a huge, complex system? Or is it, as the author claims, kind of like a canary in the coal mine? A single loud voice exposing a much larger hidden problem. The letter itself doesn't give us the answer, but it definitely forces you to ask the question.